Welcome back to the El Yucateco channel. I'm Josh, and today I'm showing you a recipe. You've probably heard of it. Heck, I know you've seen it before because it is the hottest thing right now in food trends and it's popping up all over the internet. I'm talking about birria. Birria is a stewed beef taco where you leave a layer of fat on top of the stewing liquid, dip a tortilla in there, and fry it in the pan. These crunchy, salty, savory, spicy, cheesy, messy tacos are insanely good, and I can't wait for you to see how we're making them today. Of course, El Yucateco has got amazing recipes always coming out here on their YouTube channel, so please hit subscribe below, click the bell, get notified, because these recipes are great and I don't want you to miss them. Let's go, let's get started. I really want to show you how to make these birria tacos because they will be a staple in your house for taco night. Let's go. So the first thing I want to do is make a marinade for my meat. Now, the marinade includes guajillo peppers, chipotle and adobo, white distilled vinegar, crushed tomatoes, garlic, oregano, paprika, and cumin. The meat that you're going to be using is very important because you want fatty meat to create that layer of fat on top of the simmering liquid that we're making. So I'm going to go with beef shank, short rib, and sirloin. The reason why I'm going between fatty meat and lean meat is because I really want a nice change of texture for the tacos. So when we stew it all together, the shank and the beef ribs are going to make a really nice shredded texture, whereas the sirloin that I'm using, going with tri-tip today, once cubed is going to make a little bit more of a bite. So it's going to be really good inside these tacos. Now you can use dried oregano, but I'm going to go with fresh oregano here today just because it's a much brighter flavor and it works great in a marinade. But if you want to sub out oregano, dried oregano, Mexican oregano, go for it. What we need to do to make the marinade first is to boil a pot of water because that's where we're going to add the guajillo peppers to get them soft enough to blend for the marinade. We're going to put 3 guajillo peppers into previously boiled water. It's still hot. Let them soak for 10 to 15 minutes. After 10 or 15 minutes, when they're softened, cut the tops off, tip them upside down, pour the seeds out. Go ahead and add these to a blender that already has 5 garlic cloves in it. It's got a whole sprig of my fresh oregano. Use a teaspoon of dried if you want. I'm putting an entire 7-ounce can of chipotle and adobo in there. Now in my mixing cup next to me, I have 1/4 cup vinegar, 1/2 cup of crushed tomatoes, and 2 tablespoons of any El Yucateco you want. I'm going with chipotle today just because I want to reinforce that smoky flavor that we get from the chipotle and adobo that's already in this recipe. What's left? 1/2 teaspoon of paprika and 1 teaspoon of cumin. Go ahead and blend it all together until smooth. I'm going to cut the tri-tip up just slightly into smaller cubes to make it pull a little bit easier when we're having the final product done. Seasoning both sides of all this meat with salt and pepper. What you want to do, take your pureed marinade, put a little bit into a container, and then start layering your beef and more marinade on top. Now I will warn you, this sauce will stain anything you put it into. So use a Ziploc bag or a container that's specifically designed for brining or marinating because you're not going to be able to get this red stain out. All right, seal it up, put it in the fridge for 18 to 24 hours. The longer, the better. Now it's the next day, day of the cook. Saute 1/2 a white onion, chopped or diced, with a small amount of oil. Cook it just until the onion's translucent. From here, you can cook this in a crock pot, an Instapot, pressure cooker, or just a large pot that you're going to let simmer on your stove. It doesn't matter which one you go with. The only difference is the time it takes to cook. Obviously, doing something on top of your stove in a pot or a crock pot is going to take a little bit longer. If you're using a pressure cooker, you can pretty much get this done within an hour. I'm going with crock pot here today just because it's easy for me to leave the house and not have to worry about a simmering pot on the stove. Onions in the crock pot, I'm going to throw the meat in with the marinade. That's an important step. That marinade is going to act as a sauce for us. 2 bay leaves, 6 cloves, 1 cinnamon stick, and 1/4 of chicken stock. Set the crock pot on low, hit a timer for 6 hours. Now 6 is the minimum that you're going to want to do in a crock pot. You may need up to 8 hours depending on the size of the shanks, the size of the short ribs. but 6 to 8 is typical. Don't worry, all the steps for this recipe are below in the description. You'll have a recipe in there and ways to modify it if you're using crock-pot, Instapot, pressure cooker, or on your stove. 6 hours is up. Take the meat out, put it to a clean bowl. Make sure you fish out the bay leaf, the cinnamon stick, and any cloves that you see floating around in there. And you see this? That's the fat on top. This is precisely what we want to fry the tortillas. Now that your beef's set aside, you want to shred it. Just take 2 forks. It should shred really easily at this point. Add a little bit of liquid back from the pot just to keep the meat moist, and we're ready to start building tacos. Fire up the stove, get a frying pan over medium to high heat. While it's preheating, make sure you get your tortillas set up. I'm using white corn tortillas here today. Now I'm gonna dip it into the fat on top. Not gonna go all the way down and dip it, rather I'm just gonna swipe it over the top because that's where all the fat is hanging out. First thing you want to do is get some cheese and shred it really finely. I'm using a vegetable peeler just to get some nice long strands. I'm using Jack, I'm using Quesadilla cheeses, but you can use any sort of white melting cheese that you want. I recommend going with Jack and the Quesadilla mix. I'm going to top with a little bit of my stewed beef, just on half of it. Cook it for about a minute. You'll begin to hear it start frying harder and harder. Then you'll know when it's time to turn it. It's about a minute. Flip one end over the other, press it down. All that cheese is gonna help keep it tight. Cook for another 30 seconds, and then flip it to brown the other side. You can cook more than one of these at once in a larger pan, but don't worry, these tacos are going to stay hot, so it's no problem to cook one at a time and then put them on the plate as they finish up. Total cook time for these is about 1.5 minutes, so don't worry, you're not losing much time. I know you're excited because I'm excited. It is time to serve these bad boys up. What you want to do is take a small cup, put the consommé in there. That's the broth from the stew we made. Put some diced onions on top, a little bit of cilantro. Make sure to dip the tacos in before taking a big old bite. Trust me, these are messy, but it's the good kind of messy. So darn good. This is gonna take your taste buds on a roller coaster of flavor. Insane textures and mind-blowing flavors. I told you, messy, meaty, cheesy, greasy, just insane. I want you to make this, drop a comment below, and let me know what you think, because these are fantastic. The El Yucateco that's in them, that chipotle I used, really gives it a nice smokiness, coupled with the chipotles and adobo. You can use any El Yucateco you want. You know, red would be really good in this. Or if you want, add some of the green jalapeno on top, because that brightness and that acidity from that sauce, holy smokes, would take this over the top. Like I said, it's messy. I'm gonna finish this, so I'll see you next time here on the El Yucateco channel. Thanks for watching.